Now that we've fully covered pricing concepts, let's now cover some pricing models that can work hand in hand with the pricing concepts we discussed in the previous part of this chapter, part 6 to be specific. We start with the premium pricing model. The premium pricing model is where prices are set artificially high in order to drive a perception of value, that is, quality, exclusivity, and status for the given product or service. Premium pricing works hand in hand with Veblen psychographics. In fact, one can argue that a good whose primary consumer is susceptible to Veblen psychographics is ripe for a premium pricing model. Premium pricing relates to goods where the price is considered to be directly proportional to the quality, and both are, by definition, on the high end. Premium priced items tend to be limited in access and supply in order to drive home the perception of exclusivity and status. Words like VIP are usually largely used in promotional messaging for premium priced goods. The second pricing model is penetration pricing. This is a type of pricing model where the price initially starts out low, but steadily rises as the product or service becomes more popular, more visible, or gains momentum. Penetration pricing is usually used for products and services that are newly introduced to the market in order to drive market penetration momentum. The price is usually set at a level that is viewed to be attractive and competitively appealing to the target market. Then, as the product popularity and sales grow and more customers repeatedly purchase the product, the price steadily rises. Consider a hair growth product that is very effective in treating baldness and can cultivate a very healthy beard from a chin with very humble and patchy beginnings. Introducing such a product into the market that is already saturated with similar products claiming similar results at a price considered to be high for this type of product might not do so well in driving market penetration. Going in with a highly competitive price to encourage target customers to actually purchase the product and try it, enough to generate a buzz from positive results, then slowly raising prices might be a better approach. This approach describes penetration pricing. Now, in order for penetration pricing to work, goods must be of a high quality. The initial low price has to be considered to be a steal relative to the perceived value of the good, and when prices are eventually raised, the value of the good in terms of its perceived quality should not be in question, such that the increased price is considered to be a rip-off of sorts, and now causes customers to lose interest in the product or churn on the service. Let's now consider the skimming pricing model. Skimming can be considered to be the foundational cousin of price gouging. Skimming is demand-driven pricing, where prices are raised when a good or service that is in high demand is in low supply. So reasonably raising prices in response to this high demand but low supply situation is price skimming. Unreasonably raising prices in response to this low supply, high demand situation is considered price gouging. That's the difference between the pricing cousins. Goods where a skimming pricing model is applied can be of low quality. That is, the strategy will still work for goods that are considered to be of low quality. As long as the demand is high and the supply is low, price skimming can be implemented as a pricing strategy. This skimming pricing model is typically evident in the use of ride-hailing apps. The more demand there is and fewer available cars there are, typically on weekends when people tend to attend events or do activities where alcohol consumption is involved, thus opting not to drive, the higher prices tend to be. Now, if more ride-hailing companies enter the fray and there are suddenly more cars available at the same level of demand, prices will tend to drop. A good scenario is one where there's only one ride-hailing company operating in a given area. They implemented price skimming purely based on demand patterns. The higher the demand, the higher the price. Enter a new competitor. They need to penetrate the market in order to grab some market share from the incumbent, so they implement penetrative pricing, basically highly competitive pricing that make it impossible for customers, even once loyal to the incumbent brand, to not consider them, especially during high demand, low supply periods. So the incumbent is now forced to lower prices to be able to compete. They are in a typical price skimming position. When demand was high and supply was low, they raised prices. Now supply has risen in the form of cars from the new competitor. They lower prices. The new competitor has now made an entrance and penetrated the market. They now need to start thinking about breaking even and embarking on a journey to profitability. So they start raising prices, a typical penetration pricing scenario. The last pricing model we deal with is economy pricing. Economy pricing is a no-frills approach to pricing. You get exactly what you need at a price you can afford. No frills, no extras. The target customer type of the economy pricing model is the price-sensitive customer. This pricing strategy is mainly used for mass market products and services, where volumes are high and margins are low. Now, although this strategy is mainly for mass market goods, this doesn't necessarily mean it is only targeted at low-income groups. A customer of a high-income group can be susceptible to price sensitivity as well, depending on the context, as well as what type of good or service they want to consume. A well-off business person can opt for an economy, company budget-friendly option of a hired car on a business trip. Economy goods are typically of low price and low quality, as long as the good or service is perceived to deliver on its intended use. It's about bare minimum satisfaction of a certain want or need at the lowest price possible. The purchase behavior is driven by price and nothing else, and the expectation is generally low, a clear understanding of the statement, "You get what you pay for." Now, let's do a quick recap of these pricing models before we continue. Premium pricing. High prices, perceived high quality, goes well with the Veblen strategy and snob effects, where supply is deliberately restricted to drive home the perception of exclusivity and status. Penetration pricing is used to drive customer acquisition, typically to undercut competitors with the objective of gaining market share while launching a new product or service or trying to move stock or pivot an existing product that is struggling to gain traction in a given market. Skimming pricing is the more noble cousin of price gouging. It is used to drive higher profitability to take advantage of high demand. When demand lowers, prices are typically lowered as well. Economy pricing is a no-frills, low-margin, high-volume pricing strategy. The strategy is used to meet customers at the price they can afford with a viable product that can at least meet their needs at a bare minimum level while maintaining some sort of margin to drive profitability. The economy strategy only works when sales are high in volume and is characterized by very low revenue to profit conversion, where the bulk of the revenue covers the cost of production and fulfillment, with typically very limited budget for advertising, unless the addressable market is so large that forecasted volumes can generate enough to cover the advertising costs. For a quick, simplified demonstration of the pricing strategies we've just spoken about, let's consider the hospitality establishment example we used in our venture creation course and go through the pricing strategy we used there to demonstrate pricing models and how they can be applied and used in pricing strategy. Please feel free to visit our venture creation course for some golden nuggets about how to map out a business concept into a sellable funding proposal, free on YouTube. For that hospitality case study, we were dealing with a hypothetical hospitality establishment we were planning to launch in Lesotho, the Mountain Kingdom, in southern Africa. The country experiences very hot summer weather in the month of January, which starts to chill mid-May onwards, gets very cold and snowy, that is, the winter season, into June and July, and temperatures start to slightly rise end of July into August. Spring makes its entrance and temperatures start to heat from early September towards the end of the year. Back to January. There's some activity still happening spilling over from the end of year festive season, where some people tend to go on holiday to avoid the festive season rush with its high prices. Travelers are typically international leisure travelers, and because the numbers are low, they have their pick in terms of accommodation options. In this scenario, the penetration strategy makes sense. Essentially set prices that somewhat undercut the competition, but also have enough of a margin to swallow the high level of advertising and sales facilitation needed for customer acquisition during this period, which may require other value offers over and above the discount offers, bearing in mind that travelers are carrying stronger currencies. This is followed by the Easter season, where the Basotho nationals living and working in neighboring countries make the trip back home to visit family and celebrate the Easter holidays with loved ones. There's also a bit of business activity carrying on during this period, when business travelers from neighboring and other countries with business interests in the country visit for operational and other business reasons. This period is busy, traveler-wise, with a mix of local and international business travelers. The bulk of travelers, however, are local, and while not all of them will stay with family, those needing accommodation will likely largely be price sensitive. They are not there as leisurely travelers. They are there to see family and attend family events, so they would be willing to pay as little as possible with the objective of finding a decent enough place to lay their head. The pricing strategy that makes sense here is economy. Get as many people in as possible at the most minimum viable margin and get the high volumes to make up for the low margin. We move on to the winter season. The Mountain Kingdom, as is affectionately called, is home to majestic hills and mountains, and in winter these majestic mountains get covered with snow and they become gloriously scenic, making them a pleasure paradise for those who love mountain skiing. This, however, does not mean that every mountain skiing enthusiast with a traveling bug has the Mountain Kingdom in their diary. It's a developing country with beautiful villages and small towns, and unfortunately underdeveloped road network, so not very many places to go and not much else to do outside of the skiing locations, particularly in winter. The typical traveler profile during this time is the international traveler, and all that strong currency can absorb higher demand driven prices, providing the perception of luxury and high value is well projected. Price skimming, that is. Next is the spring to summer season, where the budget cycle period in many corporates means a lot of conferences and strategy getaways. There are also a lot of mountain biking annual events taking place at this warm time of the year, so accommodation seeking travelers grow significantly during this period, with the mix of travelers being conferencing and operational check in business people, warm weather international leisure travelers, as well as mountain biking event travelers. The activity picks up, but the Mountain Kingdom is not exactly top of the list in terms of preferred destinations for conferencing and strategy sessions. Nearby South Africa, with its far more developed infrastructure and much more organized tourism industry, tends to absorb a lot of that activity, with its many coastal and inland scenic locations. However, the Mountain Kingdom is quite small, with a limited number of hospitality establishments that are of a good standard and are easily accessible roadwise. So any form of concentrated activity typically means a shortage of good accommodation for guests who are used to a good level of standard, hospitality-wise. That being said, the hospitality establishment in this case study is new and just entering the fray. Places with limited accommodation that exhibit varying standards of quality, such as the ones in this context, tend to be characterized by high loyalty from guests who frequent the location. Guests tend to trust one establishment and stick to it. Penetration pricing therefore makes sense in this context in order to make guests to consider an alternative option than what they are used to. If the establishment was already a well-known established entity with regular guests and a healthy record of good reviews, perhaps a combination of penetration and skimming would have made more sense, depending on how stable the demand pattern is for the period. Lastly, we deal with the end of year summer period, where a lot of tourism activity happens in neighboring South Africa. This activity typically spills over, significantly so, into the Mountain Kingdom with its majestic mountainous views and beautiful nature in warm sunny weather. This is a very busy period, attracting local and international travelers alike. Again, considering that the hospitality establishment in this case study is new, a combination of penetration and demand-driven skimming makes sense in order to take a bite out of the incumbent's apple. However, if this establishment was already a well-known entity that had established itself as a quality hospitality location in the kingdom, premium pricing would make more sense, such as most places in neighboring South Africa during this time.